First of all, I'd like to preface this particular topic about saving as much as possible. We are dealing with computers. They do crash, and you are going to be working with clients or situations where you will lose information, and you need to be able to be saving as much as possible for those situations. So let's discuss about the different methods of saving. These are very basic functions, but I do need to make sure everybody understands these. So underneath the File menu, we have the standard Save, Command S, and this only updates the session file. So currently right now I'm working with Chapter 1 session file, and you can see that this was just updated to this current time. It does not update my audio files, my fades, or any other folder items within my session folder, only the .ptf. Notice that this .ptf is fairly small, so there's not audio directly within this session file. So that's something to watch out for. You're not saving audio there. Now, if you're doing a save as allows us to create a different version. So we can call this session 2, for example. And what I like about this is a great method for being able to go to an earlier style or production idea that was created in the process. I like to think of this as laying a trail of breadcrumbs that you can come back to for any decisions that you made earlier that you just need back. So save as is very common. You're going to find yourself probably doing that when you're working with clients on a daily routine where you'll have multiple sessions, maybe 15, 20 sessions within your session folder. And again, this only creates a session file. This is not creating new audio files and so forth. So very great way to just get back to your original ideas. Now, the third method here that I want to talk about is revert to save. So let's say I make some changes here. I highlight something and I hit delete. I highlight something, I hit delete. And I no longer want these changes there. I need to get back to where I was before. You can simply just do a revert and it will go back to the original settings that you had with all those back. So there's been times you've gone down a road and you've done a lot of edits, a lot of changes, and it's just not going where you want. So try the revert to save to get back. That will be very helpful. Now let's talk about probably one of the most important save functions in Pro Tools, and this is doing save copy in. This is probably the most important because of the ability of truly archiving the entire session. You can go to earlier versions. So if I want to drop it down to version 5.1 to 6.9, then I can actually make it compatible for older Pro Tools rigs, older Pro Tools systems, and so forth. I can now go in and force the PC and Mac compatibility. Notice that that was not available when you're working in the latest version. So there was a point where Pro Tools would work only on a Windows or a Mac, and they were separate Pro Tools session files. Right now in Pro Tools 7, 8, and 9, you do not have to worry about session compatibility. It's already implemented. Notice that you can change the file format. You can even go into older Sound Designer 2 file formats, which is the original audio file format for Pro Tools. You can go into higher sample rates or lower sample rates. This is if you're in a situation where you're working at, let's say, 96 kilohertz and you're opening it up on an interface or a system that does not have that high sample rate. You will have to do a save copy in and drop the sample rate. Now there's a problem with that because you lose resolution and quality. Obviously you want to stay at 24-bit as much as possible. There should not be too many reasons you should ever have to switch a session to 16-bit. Then you can go and choose the items that you want to copy. Now this is the one that you'll always check off. In fact, you can almost look at this as a something habitual. When you're backing up a session, you just always want to check off your audio files. Now fades don't have to be copied because you'll find that you can regenerate them. This is really useful for backing up media and not having a lot of excess smaller wave files created from the fade processes. So this is something I do recommend. You don't have to back up your fades. You want to treat your backup as a true backup for those worst case scenarios. You can also do the same thing with your Elastic Audio. Your plugins can be, now these are settings, not the actual plugin applications. You can store the root settings of the plugs, your video files that are attached to this particular session, and even preserve the file hierarchy so you can take it to another studio and drop it on the respective drives and things work properly. So let's just go ahead and hit save or OK, and we're going to store it in the top directory, and I'm just going to call it copy of. We'll keep it simple. Notice that if it's done properly, you will see that it is creating a brand new session folder with all the elements as well as all the audio. So when this is complete, let's go ahead and look at the Finder. You'll see that if I go up to my top directory, there it is. And it has my audio files, everything that I need for that particular session, all self-contained. Notice that I am not working in this session. It has been backed up, and I'm still working in the original save as that I did earlier. Now, I want to talk about auto save. If you go into your preferences, this is the first time we've talked about preferences at this point. There are several different ways of getting into your preferences. You can go into your Pro Tools preferences, and notice there's a lot of elements that we can cover here. We will get into these in more detail throughout the month. But for right now, if you go into the operations, you'll see right here that we can enable session file auto backups. And we can choose to have it to be the 10 most recent and have it set to so many minutes. You're going to find the more edits you do, you're going to probably want to drop that down. If you're not doing as many edits, you may want to crank that up. But these are good, reasonable values to start with. So I do highly recommend that you keep that going all the time. The reason being is that, let's say if this session crashes right now, and I need to go back and reopen up what I've just done. You can go into your backups, your session file backups right here, and there they are. You can see all the versions with their respective date modified timestamps that you can view. So this is very helpful when you open these up. Let's say I open up this one. I'm going to go ahead and save this for right now. And then if I try to do a save from this recovered, it's going to ask me to rename it. So this is really cool. This is really nice for when, again, those worst case scenarios, your computer crashes and you need to get back to the last 5 minutes that were auto saved in the background. Okay, the last save function that I want to talk about is save as template. Now this function here is allowing us to basically create a template from a current session we have open. So right now I have a lot of tracks that are set up with particular plugins, all kinds of things that I have for these particular drums. I may use this session over and over every time I have a drummer come in, and this is very useful to have it just readily available for future sessions. So what I can do is I can go in here and do a save as template, and this is where we can save it within our directory. We can even add a category. We'll just call this drums, and we'll call that drum template. And then you can even select a location for that template. Right now we're just going to install it in the system, and we're going to include the media, which there isn't any, but if we had an audio file that we're constantly using over and over, let's say it's a loop or a particular MIDI sequence for click tracks or so forth, you may want to just have that all included when you check that. That helps when you check it off. So hit OK, and now you can see that if I were to close the session out now, let's go ahead and close this out, and I go into a brand new session. I'm going to go in and do a file, new session, and then we're going to create a session from template. And you'll see the one that you just created, drums, and then drum template. And then you can choose the file format, the sample rate, and of course keep it on 24-bit. And then you choose where you want to save it, and we'll just call this drum session 1. And now you've got all those elements that you have created from the template directly within this new session file. You can see it is now on the top directory. There it is. Hopefully you have now got a good understanding of all the different save functions. Please review the save, save as, save copy in, which is the true archive, and then revert to save, and then working with session templates.